All right. I think that's good. I look pretty good there, don't I?
Beautiful. All right,
I'll banter with them for a while.
coming in. Do Ashira. Oh, that's
All right.
there.
There we go. Here. All right. Well, we're getting some of our regulars, even though is it good to say you old guys are regular? Uh, Don and Nicholas, right up there with me. I'm always happy when I'm regular. So, Nate, do I know you, Nate?
Oh, sir.
Well, nice to meet you. Where do you hail from, buddy?
Oregon,
Where at in Oregon?
coast.
Could you be a bit more vague?
Outside of Newport,
Okay.
about 25-minute drive.
Okay. Okay. So I've been all over Oregon. I used to be in the circus. We traveled there and performed a lot. So I've been all the way up and down the coast of the Western United States. The 101. Close as you can get to the coast, all the way up and down. Hey, Tony.
Hey, Greg.
Good to see you.
Same here.
Let's see. Alicia, do I know you?
No, but I have your book.
Oh, well, good. You're the one.
What? The one, whatever. I know other
The
people
one
have
who
it.
bought my book. Oh my God, I made $1 off of you.
There you go. I support you. It's nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you.
Nice to meet you as well. I'm glad you're
Thanks.
here.
Thank you. I'm at
Good.
the Poteet, Texas Strawberry Festival. I
Oh,
was like, I need to
okay.
go to this meeting.
All right. All right. Well, the Texas, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, got a former student just moved out to Austin
Cool.
and stuff. So he's in that scene. And let's see, Morton just left. Let me see. We got more?
No, I think that's
That's all that's in?
all
Yes,
for now.
hello.
I'm sure they'll come in.
All right. Morton, do I know you? Have we met?
No, absolutely not.
Oh,
I'm from
okay.
Denmark.
All right. Where do you hail from?
I'm from Denmark.
Denmark. Oh my goodness. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Do you know Werner Olsen? Never mind. He's a cartoonist there.
Okay. No, no.
So, yeah. Anyway, let's see. I had two Danish. Werner Olsen, who's a famous cartoonist from there, and an actress that was there was Thash. What's her last name? Anyway, there we go. Yeah, you wouldn't know. Anyway, a big country. It's like, do you know Bob? Some people who knew who Werner Olsen was because he's a cartoonist and he worked in TV and stuff, had some things. Bill, good to see you. You need to have red glasses, Bill, if you're going to coordinate like you did in class. Oh, never mind. That's an inside joke. Oh, Alicia, boy, I'm telling you, you turn into a model with air and everything on you. That's nice.
Very.
All right, huh? Let's see.
I dress up as Sexy Red. So I dress really crazy. So it's kind of
Yes,
annoying, maybe.
that's a lot of red. All right, and Ashira, hello. And all. So let's see. We'll chat for a bit. Well, I know most of you guys. So let's see. A lot of you, Bill. Bill, good to have you here. Ashira says hello to everybody through chat. Well, did you have a good time in class, Bill? You're muted. Unmute. I think your wind, Alicia's wind is coming through the screen and doing your window back behind you there, Bill. So, Tony, I always wonder how many books do you have in your library there? Yeah, you're muted. What are you in the Library of Congress there?
I have I have a backdrop for the Library of Congress, but
I
no, those are
know.
fake.
I know
What?
that. I'm just harassing you is all I'm doing.
All right.
Jeez, Nate, you're in outer space. What are you up there waiting for the Challenger to crash? You can pick up the pieces.
Maybe.
That's good. Morton, you actually live in Denmark? You're actually calling in from Denmark?
I am, yes.
Oh, wow. What time is it there?
It's 9 o'clock in the evening.
Well, oh, that works out pretty good. That's why we put this so early. I hardly get up by noon.
Okay.
I still live on the Elvis schedule.
Yeah.
You know, go to bed very late at night and get up very late. And it's like, oh, you got a 12 o'clock appointment. Oh my God, I got to get up early. I always have a good time. So, Nate, you got a cold? What's going on, buddy?
I have hay fever. It's in the family on my mom's side. It's springtime, and I run a farm, and so all the plants are opening up, and it goes right up my nose, and it's really, really convenient.
Right.
Yeah, that's really nice, so that you could just plug your mouth and plug your nose, and then everything would be okay.
Yeah, that's an option.
I mean, that would end the problem.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm just trying to be helpful.
Thank you.
I know.
I could do what the guys in World War II did when they got sick of the smell. They'd take cigarettes and they'd break them in half and they'd put them up their nose.
Oh, and they also did Benzedrine too, so that's always nice.
What is Benzedrine?
Oh, it's an upper. The World War II was pretty much fought on Benzedrine for the Americans and I don't know, crack for the Germans.
Is Benzedrine what they put in crystal methamphetamine?
It's one of the things.
My library?
They called it back in my day. They called them bennies. In my early, they were just uppers, boy, because it's like, wow, why you take them and I've never really liked those. I preferred either LSD or Quaaludes.
Oh yeah, like in the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes, very
Like
much
what I
so.
said.
I'm,
Yeah.
because God knows I'm a millionaire.
And Hugh Hefner, he called them thigh openers.
Yep. Well, looks like this is the group we have. What time do we have? I usually wait till like 10 after and everything. And so basically this is a forum for everybody else to talk instead of me. I might chime in once in a while with a little bit of Dyson here and there and stuff. But overall, this is about you guys sharing. Oh, Library of Congress. Tony, you did it. I've been to the Library of Congress. And I've seen the Constitution. I had a private viewing of the Constitution of the United States. My uncle's brother, by marriage, was the man who took care of the Constitution when I was in Washington, D.C., performing with Ringling Brothers. We went over, and my friend and I, we got a private viewing. It was very nice. One of those nice little moments that you don't realize how significant it is when you're 22. That one day that Constitution would become extremely relevant. Oh, gee, are we going to continue to follow this or give over our power to one person? I don't know. Just seems a little kind of relevant for today. All right. Let's see. So that's what we're doing. Let me go ahead and share with everybody here my little thing here. Here we go. To everyone, please mute your mics unless we're doing the talking, because just noise in the background or wind and dogs barking and stuff like that can, like right now, somebody's got, I don't know who it is, but everybody, if you mute unless we're actually talking, you're talking, it comes in and kind of also will bump and cause you to be speaker instead of me or whoever's talking, because it's on speaker view. And so the camera will jump to who's ever doing the talking. And if some sound comes in from another one, all of a sudden you'll blurp in real quick for no apparent reason on the video. So that's why we asked for that. Please, if you have any questions or anything, raise your hand, or put it in chat. Steve is going to be monitoring that. That's Steve, my assistant there. We thank him very much for showing up. Also, like, subscribe, and comment on this. I'd really appreciate it, so that we can get, a little bit better ranking on these and all. So we see how it goes. And Bill, we need to admit Bill again. So here we go. That kind of stuff. So I'm going to turn this off. Well, actually, I'm going to start. I'm going to go ahead and start. Kind of an official start to this, so we'll cut to later. Steve, are we rolling, and are we fully in full share mode with all the...
Yeah, we're good to go.
We are. All right. Here we go. Here's the formal start. Welcome, everybody. Hey, this is Greg Dean's Forum 10. How did your last show go? Wow. That's either going to be a whole lot of fun to talk about how spectacular you were, or it could be some soul-crushing story about how things went wrong. One or the other, but it's all good, because we all learn from such things as that. So that's what we're going to be working on and talking about and everything. So I think we'll just hand this around to anybody that wants to particularly talk about how your last show went. Does anybody have a story that they would like to share?
Can I go?
Yes.
So, I've done some shows before. We were at this reggae bar, so like people were enjoying themselves, and one guy like kept interrupting the comedians, and so like the host didn't address him to like not interrupt or heckle the comedians. And so when I went up there, I was like doing my bits, and then like he like kept interrupting me, and so like I would like talk over him, and he would still interrupt me. And then when I addressed him, it just like obviously interrupted the whole set. And then, obviously like my train of thought and like the flow of the jokes, like I was trying to get into the rhythm, but like it was like very like difficult to get into it. But I think because he was fucking up he was fucking up the mood with all the prior comedians. So it was just like a really not fun show. And so, yeah, so like I asked him to like not interrupt me as a comedian, which I felt like that's not my job to do. And then like he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And then I was like, "Okay, like it's okay, babe, thanks." And then like still interrupted me. So it was like not a fun show, like at all. Don't laugh. It was not fun.
Oh, no, your pain is funny to me. Just want you to know that's always the way that's the way comedy works, is that drama is me having a hangnail, and comedy is you falling down in a manhole and being crushed and dumped into a bunch of crap down there. That's what comedy is. So I just want you to know. So did you talk to him then?
Yeah. Like I addressed him like he was like missing a tooth. And I told him he was going to be missing another tooth because like I have like this joke like with chlamydia, and I was like, "Well, you're going to get chlamydia and miss a tooth." I don't know. It was just so weird. I don't know why no one stopped him. And like he was like the issue. So we had a show there prior. It was like a strip joke, whatever kind of a situation. And like that was fun. And then we came back like next week and then did that. And like, it was just like the energy, like the whole energy was off, like the whole show. So
Right.
like, was there something that like I should have did it different, or like, do you think that was like unpreventable?
Well, first of all, I think you did the right thing by talking with him. A lot of
Yeah.
people, they're so stuck in their quote unquote set
For
that they
sure.
just won't leave their show to deal with something that is clearly not going to allow your show to go. So it always brings up a question of when you do a show and when your routine, what you've brought there is not adequate to handle the situation. And so, first of all, you leaving your show is a good thing to talk to him.
Okay.
The next thing you understand is, and I think you might have gotten this from most hecklers, are not malicious. He actually was trying to help. He thought he was helping, but he's drunk or high or something like that, doesn't realize the damage he's doing to the show that you have planned and how the show can go. So he's making things worse for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and sometimes it helps to explain that to people.
Okay.
I mean, he can't do your job better than you. I mean, you don't go to where he works and, slap the sailors' dicks out of his mouth. So,
I was like, do you want to come up here and do it? He's like,
okay.
no.
Now never do that again. That's what you don't
Okay.
do, because you never give up the stage, never give up your mic, because you
It
find
was
out
like a
hecklers-
facetious question.
yeah, if facetious or not, they're drunk.
Yeah.
And they will come up and do that. And a lot of times, now, first of all, you've invited him. Okay, now there's a social contract that once you invite him up there, that you'll take care of him. Okay, so now you're responsible for him and so on and so. The other thing is you're giving up your power, you're giving up your mic, everything else. And a lot of times a drunk will have one good joke. Now, so you never give up that position. I know you want to kind of punish him and go, hey, I'm going through a lot of psychological things up here, but he's not. He's not going through what you're going through because he's drunk. He's high, right? He doesn't go through all. I'll go up there, right? So that's never a good idea to challenge somebody to say, hey, would you like to go? I know, because I've done it myself. And it turns into a disaster. And about half of the people I've seen do it ends up being a huge disaster because the person that's drunk doesn't care. And a lot of times they are funny. So you just work your way through it. You did the right thing, I think, of talking to him, because sometimes you just can't communicate with people that are that drunk. He's just not going to get it. Now, the other thing is, do you have an arrangement with whoever's running that open mic / show room, whatever it is, that if the hecklers are that bad, that somebody needs to go and talk to them? So I wouldn't perform at a place that I didn't have some kind of an agreement with, go to them and say, hey, we got, this place is a bar. Is somebody going to talk to them? The third thing is that you're responsible for your show no matter what. Okay, you've got to handle it. Now it's your responsibility. So now it comes down to the question. See, you can blame that person, and that leaves you powerless. You don't have any power now because, it's their fault. Okay, it's over. But if you come in and, like I used to do, is go, okay, how can I handle that better next time? What can I do? I got to handle it better, and ask yourself that question and go over some alternatives and talk like to us, other comedians about it. What do you do? One, do you have a series of heckler lines in what I call floaters? They float. They're kind of in your head and you can use them. Do you have like 5 to 10 of those?
Okay.
That would be a good thing for you to do. Find some insult books and remember those. There are some famous ones. And that's some of the jokes that you can pick up from other comics, and they don't mind because they're used on an occasion. Okay. So you have something that puts a person down. And basically, the other thing, there's a lot of strategies. You can turn the audience against them. I've
Okay.
had a whole audience stand up, point at a person, and tell them to shut the fuck up. The
Okay.
entire audience was yelling at them. They still may not
Okay.
shut up because they think it's funny. The point is, there's a lot of strategies for doing that, and then sometimes it still doesn't work. So because the person's high, they're not going to get the communication. They're not
Right.
realizing that they're screwing things. I've even seen this happen at contests where a person was in the top 5 to win a huge, like the World Series of Comedy, and somebody got drunk and talked and heckled in their show and messed them up and knocked them right out of the top 5 of winning
Ooh.
because they didn't see the person was funny but didn't have the experience to handle the situation. If they'd handled the situation with humor, they would have gotten a really high score.
Right. Okay.
So that's, you know, the other thing is for you then to practice some crowd work. So you get used to talking to an audience so that isn't just something that completely throws you. But I think the best thing to say was that you left your show and you talked to the person. At least now you've got a chance. Because if you keep droning through your show, no matter what, and the person's heckling and talking and interrupting, and you just drone through your show, you don't have a chance to turn it around because you're not communicating. So you did the right thing. So good for you. That was, you're going in the right way. You're a beginner. You're learning. And remember, experience comes from bad judgment. Experience comes from and bad judgment. What's the saying? Good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. So you got to get up there and screw up a bunch of times along the way. So this is a good thing. Just
Yeah.
make sure that you get up and do it again. Just keep doing it.
Okay.
Good. Anybody else got any advice for her? Anything?
Sometimes
All right,
I
my
found,
coffee went down the wrong pipe there. Yes, Don.
Uh-oh.
I know it's exciting what I'm going to say. What's happened, I've found sometimes is the audience will take over in dealing with the hecklers because they know they're losing something. They're losing part of a show. And you can't always count on them, but sometimes they will stand up and do it.
Sometimes, but I'll tell you, you
Sometimes.
sure can't count on that.
I couldn't.
Yeah, sometimes the audience thinks it's funny and they join in.
Yeah,
Well, I
as the
think
fifth comedian to go up and still there's no repercussions for this guy. Like they literally kicked him out at the end of the show. It's like, dude, why didn't we say something the first comic that went up and this would have been addressed? So it was unfortunate.
Again, as long you're giving up your power, somebody else has to do something about it. The thing is to
So
go,
just shut his ass down.
what can you do about it? Because somebody's not always going to take them out. They're not going to go. You've got to learn how to handle that situation, turn it around, and make it funny anyway.
I just didn't want to look like an asshole as a comedian. Like, I'm trying to make this work. I don't want to be a jerk.
You're so going to have to give that up. All comedians are assholes. We're all assholes. Yeah, be an asshole. Find out how big of an asshole you can be, because you've got to find out, because comedy is about this is not a high art form. This is a base art form. This is a gutter art form. This comes from just trashing people and saying horrible things.
Okay.
This is not poetry.
Okay.
Right. You're in a club talking to a bunch of people about stuff. And if they go off the rails, and then you say or do whatever you need to do. And you're going to do it wrong, and you're going to be an asshole sometimes. You've got to learn, go, okay, that's when I went too far. Okay, great. I'd rather have you do that than be a victim of the show.
Okay.
A victim of somebody like that. I'd rather you victimize them, and then you learn something about keeping them in their place or talking with them or getting them to understand, hey, you're screwing up my show and you're screwing up everybody's good time. Shut up. Or some people actually learn, some people like hecklers. They learn how to bring them in and and make them part of, and use them as to make things funnier. So there's a lot of options here, but as long as it's their fault, you've given up your power, and that's what you don't want to do. You always want to retain your power, because then you've got options and things to learn to do to handle any situation, and you will run into more than this over time. So good. That's nice. Does anybody else want to talk about one of your shows? Yes, Nicholas.
Hi, Greg. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going
As you know, I live in Paris, so I get the opportunity to perform in both French and in English. And Thursday, I had two last shows. Early in the evening, I performed in English and then later in French, and I was very pleased with myself because I made the transition in the one evening. I've had difficulty in the past. And when I say it went well, I got laughs at both shows and I came off stage feeling good.
Congratulations. That's very impressive to be able to take comedy. Do you have the same show for both, or do you vary the show for between English and French in order to make certain jokes work?
I always try and adapt my routine to the moment. And so I might be basically the same routine, but I usually open up differently according to the people I'm dealing with, the host. I like playing off, teasing the host, or not roasting him, but playing off some, like in English, the host was a guy I started out with 2 years ago. So I made mention of that. And I made a joke on the fact that when I started out, he gave me some advice, like I was going to meet a lot of women. And he was quite right. And then I tag with Harvey Weinstein told me the same thing.
Good joke.
Thank you.
Good
So
joke.
I'm having fun. It's challenging working in two languages, but it's twice the number of opportunities to get on stage.
Yes, it is, and quite a challenge, because English speaking culture and a French, were the French people, the English people, more American? What were they, or were they just French people who understood English?
Personally, I find it easier to perform in French because I live in a French-speaking country. In English, you never know who's in the audience. There could be exchange students, there could be tourists who have nowhere to go because they don't speak French, so they go to a comedy show, but they're from South America or Asia. So, as you just said, a lot of it's culture. So it's very hard relating to 50 or 60 people if you don't know really where they've come from.
Very much so. Very much so. And that's the challenge of that, is to notice that if you have a whole bunch of people in a different culture, because you'll notice, oh, these people over here are laughing because they can get it and the others aren't, etc. So that's very impressive to do a show in English and in French to folks. So
Thank you.
yeah, very impressive, and I'm glad that you got laughs with all of them.
But that's what it's all about.
That's what it's always all about, at least for us it is, and stuff.
I want to make a small point, and that is I think it's important for comedians to be in the room when the MC opens up the show, because then if he does crowd work with the audience, you get a feeling of where people have come from and who they are. And so you can pitch to that too.
Yes, and it's and that's one of the lessons, I think, while I tell people about learn how to talk to an audience and stuff. Because I teach crowd work to my students, sometimes mildly, and I also do weekend workshops on crowd work, and we're going to open up some more things on crowd work, which I think is one of the top 3 or 4 skills that everybody should have. But I've been actually teaching that, and I had a student raise a hand and said, oh, I took another stand-up comedy class, and the teacher told me never to talk to the audience. How do you do your show? So no, I never interact with the audience. I just stand there and present my show and not do anything else. And I think that goes against really good stand-up comedy, because I think good stand-up comedy, that's what makes stand-up comedy interesting, is that it's a dialogue. The audience should be having an influence on you. for the whole show. You
Yeah.
know, how they're reacting or not reacting should impact you as you go along and do your show. So the show, the material may be the same, essentially the same, but the show should never be the same, because you have a different people that try to do the same show exactly the same way for every single audience, pretty much like a surfer standing on the beach, deciding how to ride every future wave. You put it that way and kind of go, that's stupid. So you're doing the right thing by, first of all, opening it and making fun and having some fun. I'm a big believer in not having a set as a set. In other words, a set being set. Okay, I know exactly how I'm going to say it. I know my body language. I know my inflection. I'm going to repeat all those. Then you're not connected with the audience, because all those things should change as you tell your stories to the audience. So it sounds like you're doing the right thing too. If you're doing shows like that and you're opening up and connecting with people, connecting with the MC, connecting with the audience. My principle that I teach is the most important thing about stand-up, performing stand-up comedy, is the relationship with the audience. I always say, I go so far as to say that relationship between you and them, the audience, that's the show. It's not the material. Material is just the activity. You can do material, audience participation, you can do crowd work, you can do, there's a lot of things. But that relationship between you and the audience, that's the show. So people that have set their show so that they don't have a relationship with the audience is maybe the lowest common denominator for doing stand-up comedy. It's still in there, and you're still standing up there trying to make people laugh and all. Yet I find that the most powerful way to do it is the whole show is an engagement. The whole show is that feedback loop. So I think you're doing the right thing by actually being, because one of my phrases for my students just before they go on stage is say, if you're present and you play, you win. So it doesn't matter how the show goes. If they laugh or they don't laugh, if you're present and you're noticing everything, because the audience will always trust you as long as they know that you know what's happening in the room. Oh, you're not doing well. And you're going, oh, this isn't working very well. And you keep committed and don't blame them. They stay with you. They're still like, oh, let's give this person a shot. So you're doing the right thing, is being playful, and it's amazing that you're dealing with two different cultures. That's you really have to be aware of the difference in how jokes work with different groups of people, and that's good. That flexibility is always going to serve you. Good for you. Anybody else got a story they want to share?
Well, this is just a more general thing, Greg. It's not about a heckler or anything like that. I find my most successful sets are ones where I have the pace correct. And
The what again?
The pace. Not too slow, not too fast. Because if it's too slow, people are wondering what you're doing, setting up everything. And if it's too fast, they may not hear you. So I have to experiment a little bit with an audience to see where they are and to see if they're willing to go with a faster pace or with a slower pace. But I find there are other things, obviously, the content and so on, but that's one of the things that I find influence what's going to happen.
Absolutely. And that's to me, that's one of the big, I don't know, secrets. That's one of the big learning points of stand-up comedy, that it's not a presentation. It's not like, oh, we're going to do this orchestra and we're going to play it for you. You're going to sit there and listen. It's an interaction. It's a dialogue. It's a feedback loop. And that's what you're talking about there. And I think that's the big lesson to learn. That's why my number one principle is the most important thing about performing stand-up is your relationship with the audience. That right there is the reason. Is that the rhythm of the show is you're developing a rhythm of how fast to go, how long to pause, when to come in at the end of a laugh, all those things. There's all these macro, there's the big ones that we know about. Oh, pause after a laugh, and how long, and those you got to learn those first. But there's also all these little, I don't know how to explain it, micro things, right? So many there are little things of pause and body language and vocal tone that should be different from show to show to show, because the interpretation, the timing of that show is actually dictated by the rhythm between you and the audience. That's where the timing of a comedy show is in. If it's organic timing, it's in that where you go fast, you're going to go slow, and all those other little micro things. Yeah, Don.
Well, we've talked before, so you know this, but I just wanted to mention it. I spent 50 years teaching at a university, and that means any audience I'm friendly with, including audiences of 2,000 people. And basically, well, that's, if you're a keynote speaker, you get 2,000 people, or 1,000, whatever. But one of my jokes is I found I have no stage fright left, and that's good and bad. My wife and kids say, Dad, some people should have stage fright. That's a joke. Anyway,
well, but the thing
it's a
is,
joke. I can label these if you'd like them to. Me too. But getting back, but I, what you said about presentations, I absolutely agree with. On the other hand, giving presentations, I found, especially when you're talking about things that aren't especially amusing or interesting, like statistics, for example, basically you eventually find a way, hopefully, to make it interesting or intriguing, at least. And that in turn, I find, can be translated. I just started this about 2 years ago because I didn't want to, I retired from the university and I didn't want to die from the neck up. So I started with improv, and then from improv, I got into stand-up, which I just personally enjoy more. But I'm saying, without all that 50 years, it would be a lot more difficult. That's all.
yeah, well, you got a lot of stage time.
Yeah.
To I found when I started losing my stage fright and stuff, I'd actually I developed a ritual to kind of pump myself up, to get the adrenaline and stuff going, so that my motor was rolling when I got in front of an audience. So everybody works differently, but that's what I did. But yes, you're absolutely right. See, and that's the big lesson, is that no show, I make a distinction between the script and the interpretation of that script. You're going to have the same script a lot of shows, essentially. Not exactly, hopefully, but pretty close. But the interpretation of that show should never be the same. Because the audience is different. You're different. The location's different. The demographic of the people is different. The situation that you're being put into is different. And so that's what I mean. If you're present and you play, you're learning how to play this audience. And shifting and trying to find that, to maximize what I call, optimize the laughs that are in the show that you've got. And the way to do that is all these little micro things that you do to shift, to get the best laugh out of each joke, or to leave it and ad lib and talk and deal with the audience, etc., so that it's the show. That's why if you round me much, you don't realize I don't like to use the word set. Because I never want your show to be quote unquote set. It shouldn't be set. You have a show, and then it in all these micro ways, it changes for each individual audience as you go through and do that show. Then your timing is organic with the people that you're with, rather than a lot of people just try to repeat the show that they have rehearsed at home, and they're trying to just repeat that show on stage, or repeat a previous show. Oh, that's what works, so I'm going to repeat that. And you find that doesn't work either, because repeating that show, because all it does, both of those things, all it does is guarantee that you're not going to be present, because your mind is referring to the past, either at home, where you're trying to remember what you rehearsed at home, or you're trying to remember a previous show and trying to do exactly that. So the one place that you're not gonna be is present. And to me, that's what it's all about, is you being, it's not that you're not all about, of course, you have to have the jokes, et cetera, et cetera. I've spent years on, putting out there the understanding how jokes work and the mechanisms of jokes and writing jokes and all the different ways of how to put together shows, different kinds of shows. That's important, yet it has to defer to the fact that that's just the foundation. The show itself is that relationship and how you're interacting in macro and micro ways, little very subtle ways, so that show is organically funny for the people that are in front of you. And then you have to take that presentation of that show when it's over and just throw it away.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about hecklers, and it's sort of related to what we were just talking about. Sometimes what I'll do when I have an audience is I'll walk into the audience. And in your experience, is that a wise thing to do with hecklers? I mean, go up to the heckler 3 feet away and talk to them.
I've sat at their table.
Okay. So, but
See,
I
yeah,
mean,
the thing is that stand up is you and a microphone, kind of, and a group of people. There's no rules that say you have to stay on stage. And I learned that from hanging out with Robin Williams.
Yeah.
A lot of shows in the same room with him, and et cetera, and on the same shows. I go back to San Francisco to a little crappy little place called the Holy City Zoo, and he would do crazy stuff. I mean, he'd actually even heckle himself. Nobody was laughing, so he'd run out and heckle himself, run back up on stage and answer the heckle, and go back out and heckle himself. And he'd do all kinds of stuff. And I, well, that's interesting. So there are no rules in this kind of a stuff. The question is what's work, and it could fail. Oh, okay. I always found that trying something outrageous and failing was worth the risk. Like you did. You go out. Did it work to go out and talk to the guy?
sure. Sure.
Because now it's
Sometimes I'll
personal.
even offer the mic. I won't give him the mic because that would be what you said before. Don't do that. But sometimes I'll offer the mic. If he starts talking, I'll just take it back.
Right. See, I wouldn't even do that. So that I always
depends.
say
It depends.
repeat what they're saying so everybody can hear what they're saying. But you know what? Again, there's no rules. If it works, it works. So my wife, Gayla Johnson, did a show where there was this really drunk woman who had heckled all these other comedians before her, and she got up afterwards and Gay got up and said, "Oh, geez, you clearly want to be a part of the show. So, hey, stand up and talk to her." Got her name, all kinds of stuff. Said, okay, if you want to be a part of the show, let me talk for a second. Every once in a while, I have this catchphrase I'm gonna use. I'm gonna yell bitch slap. And I want you to bitch slap yourself. Kind of as the ba-doom for my joke, the little rim shot. Can you do that? Oh yeah, I'll do that. And no, I need to hear that. I need to hear it. So the woman's like, stands there, and then Gayla goes through her bit and finally yells, "Bitch slap!" And this woman hauls off because she's drunk and just whacks herself. And she's kind of stunned, and the audience is laughing. And Gayla goes on again, "Bitch slap!" Whack! Not quite as hard. And Gayla, finally, this lady lays her hand, and I don't want to be a part of the show anymore. And some of my students were in that show, had gone to support my wife, and they all came into class that next week and went, "It's amazing. Gayla got this heckler to stand up and bitch slap herself." So, yeah. I mean, it was her creativity to go, "Oh, you want to be a part of the show? It's going to be painful." Right. And then, after a couple of more jokes, looked around, the woman left. Yay. Gayla went, "Let's give her a round of applause because she added to the show." Gayla incorporated her. So you just don't know. I mean, that's what I'm saying is that there's a lot of alternatives that you can do, that you talk to this guy. I also found that sometimes just like covering the mic, go over to him and say, hey, you know, you're really messing up my show, and I'd appreciate you know, it's like I'm not good enough to handle the things you're saying, and can I, come on, give me a chance. I'd really appreciate it, please. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they leave me alone. Just pure, go over just sincerity. Just say, hey, please stop. And it worked. Sometimes, not always. But I've had that work as well. Everybody's like, what is he doing over there chatting with that, whispering to that guy? And then the guy stops heckling. See, the idea is that it's your show. How do you continue to get your show in there and be yourself and be true to yourself without having to give up, you know? And I've used what the heckler was saying. I mean, I've done all those things. So you're right. You leave the stage, go and talk, do anything, I think, but give them the microphone. That, you know, I mean, to share it with them, maybe you might let them talk into it, but never give it up.
No, I just extend it, and when they start to talk, I take it back.
Right. So, you know, and it's experimenting. That's why you can't have, because people have a show. There are nights when your show is not going to be adequate for the situation. And the students I work with, a lot of them are like, why are you always pushing us for this and that, until finally they run in, because their show has been adequate. They've got student showcases, they've got friends, and, you know, people are very supportive and stuff. And then they go out and start doing real shows, and then their show is inadequate. It's not enough. That just the show they have is not enough to make the show itself work, because there's, and then they come back and go, oh, what? Okay, now you're back. I can actually give you some more training, because as long as people think, oh, stand-up comedy is about having the show, and that's all I need. Oh, it's not even close. I mean, and there is no substitute for stage time. I mean, you know, I teach people technique. I teach you a lot of great technique, so you don't have to spend 5, 6, 7 years learning the technique. You spend that time getting good at that technique. You don't have to figure it out. You just have to get good at it. You're practicing good technique. That's what I'm putting people. You still have to put in your 10,000 hours. You know, there's no substitute for stage time whatsoever. Get as much stage time as you can, good, bad, indifferent, the worst stuff, the things, the most horrible shows you'll ever have will be the best ones for your learning. And also, when you're older, are the ones you're going to cherish. You won't remember the shows where you just crushed it. And once you get good, you crush night after night after night after night after night. Those shows, you won't even remember them. There's so many of them. Once in a while, one will stick out. It's those shows where something just outrageous goes wrong, and you have to handle it. And handle it well, you'll remember it. And you handle it badly, you'll really remember it. Those nights, you know, and now that I'm older, I was like, man, I tell stories about them. They're fun. I turn them into comedy moments, even though at the time they were soul-crushing horror night hell shows. And the more you can have, the better, because then you learn how to handle it. You know, because confidence is going to come from getting yourself into trouble and getting out again. Okay, as long as you stick with just a show and only do that, no matter whether the audiences are laughing or not, you're never taking that risk. Get yourself in trouble. Get in there, start doing stuff, and then you work it out and you make it work. Oh, God, I can handle it. Now, pretty soon, almost any situation that comes at you, you can handle it. That's confidence. Okay, that's where you get confidence. Confidence is earned. Okay, a lot of people say, oh, I'm not going to get up and perform until I have some confidence. Then they'll never get up and perform, because confidence doesn't come to you that way. It comes from failing a whole bunch and learning how to handle all those tough situations over and over and over again, until you go, well, I think I can handle anything.
Greg?
Then you get fearless on stage. That's when the power starts to happen when you get fearless on stage, because you've got the confidence to get up. And you realize also that comedy has this negative side to it. It's a very, people say, I don't want to offend anybody. Every joke is going to offend somebody because it's got a butt to a joke. Somebody's going to be made fun of. If you don't want to offend anybody, don't do comedy. Just don't do comedy.
Rick,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your comments on doing political comedy. Political.
You know what? Not my wheelhouse,
Okay.
per se. Yet I've worked with people on this before, and you've got to understand, you've really got to have a thick skin, because pretty much probably half of your audience is going to disagree with you and possibly boo you, and until you're only getting your audience. Okay, until people are coming to hear your point of view. Okay, so if you want to study that, go and study some old Mort Saul. Mort Saul was one of the great political, and before him was Will Rogers. Read his biography. It's very, very good. Same thing with Lenny, How to Talk Dirty and Influence People. Lenny Bruce, again, you can see the crushing. The government came after him because they wanted to stop him from talking about things. And they won. For all intents and purposes, they destroyed him eventually. Or he self-destructed. I'm not sure how you want to put that. But yeah, so but political stuff, but today, go and watch Bill Burr. He's one of them that I think has finally, who now has his real comic voice. Very few people get to that place where the way the normal culture looks at it is like the setup. And so all he's got to do is talk about how he sees the world, and that's the punchline. It's still, those two parts are still there. It's just, he gets up and goes after Oprah. And it's kind of like, oh no, Oprah's one of the greats. She's, untouchable or so. No, not for Bill Burr. He goes after everybody one way or another. And there's a lot of people that really hate him. And I'm sure he gets death threats, and people write the worst things to him. Well, if you're going to do something that political, then you've got to get used to, especially in today's world where it seems threats and violence is on the tongue of the politicians themselves. So, wow. So, the question, it's hard in Hollywood because this is a liberal area. Okay. Hollywood's so I've had Republicans in my classes and get up and start doing and people will, start giving feedback. Well, you can't say time out. Wait, no. You're here to help him express his sense of humor, and his sense of humor doesn't politically fit your sense of humor. So it's either shut up or help him write jokes from his point of view, even if you disagree with it. Or decide you don't want to. That's okay. One time I had two guys in the class. One was the Republican guy, like a colonel in the military, a hawk, a lawyer, hardcore, right wing, and he writes for he's been on Fox News and a lot of other things, as well as the humorist for the right wing. I won't say his name. Another guy who now owns a comedy club, and he's super liberal. And they would get up in class. Now, what do you do with that as a teacher? So I'd have to put one up first 1 week, and then I'd set some rules and say, okay, neither one of you can attack each other personally. You can't say anything personal about each other. You attack their position. Political. So the liberal then followed by the conservative. And then next week I'd reverse it. The conservative, then the liberal. Oh, those were some of my favorite classes because the two of them would get up, one would state, and the other one would then go after and trash that position. We had a great time. And there's so many times that I didn't agree with one side or the other. I'm more liberal, but I got to tell you, it was so funny to listen to each one of them go after each other. They went after the positions, not personal. And those were some of my favorite classes. They really were, because each week we were laughing so hard and having such a good time. And these two guys grew, and they also learned, oh, this is how to do it. You don't go after the person, you go after the position. And can you now take their position and show the contradiction, the hypocrisy, the wrongness of that position from your position, and how that leads to other things, etc. And each of them did it to each other. They both did it, and they were both really good, right? Once I got it away from being personal, now we're dealing with issues back and forth, and you start to go, wow, that never quite looked at that conservative point of view that way before. I'm kind of, I don't completely agree with it, but now I kind of understand it. Fascinating. So you better have a thick skin, Don. That's the first thing, is because you're going to run into a lot of people, and most people just leave out, religion and politics. And those people who take those on, they're the ones that, they don't there's a big portion of an audience who really, really dislike them and are vocal about how much they dislike them. And you've got to be able to handle that. Be willing to let that into your life as well, because it's not just going to affect you, it could affect your family. So, yet the question is, how important is your truth? How important is your truth? Is it to you to put your truth out there? Your truth. See, to me, stand-up comedy is the world according to you. Not, it's not just the funny, it's the world according to you through jokes. Okay. So that's the challenge. And are you willing to let people know who you really are and your real positions, and, how you see the world and how you see things differently than they do? And like, Sam Kinison and Dice Clay and, see Bobby Slayton, and Anthony Jeselnik currently, and Bill Burr, they have to find their audience. They have to find their audience, people that love it and go along with them and agree, have a great time with them. And it's not going to be everybody.
Let me put it this way. I would try it in New York City. I wouldn't try it out of here. For the same reason you said about LA.
Yeah, it's
Let me
difficult.
be more specific. I would do it in Manhattan.
Right.
I wouldn't do it in Staten Island.
The Republican guy, the conservative, he'd do shows and he'd get hissed in our showcases, and people would boo him. But he'd handle it. He knew that was coming, because I talked to him, said, look, you got to stand there and deal with this. This is possibly going to happen. And I loved one of his shows. He ended it by saying, he looked at everybody and went, so you've been like a jury that didn't give me any money. So fuck you. Good night. And the audience applauded, because he left. He didn't blame them. He smiled, left. And they were like, well, this guy disagrees with us. I thought it was a good show. Wasn't the most funny show I've ever seen, but, he didn't get upset. He didn't blame. He didn't do all those other things. He handled it. And, the audience didn't really want to hear what he had to say. So, Dennis Miller has changed sides. I'm sure he has his audience now, too, with the conservative side. And my guy I'm talking about is good friends with Dennis Miller now because of it. They've been on the same shows together, have the same point of view. So, but there's a lot of people out there that agree with them too. So, that's why we're having an election. Any other things anybody wants to share about their shows? Yes, Nick.
Beyond the hecklers, there are people who actually contribute positively to the show. I'm thinking about the one or two people who are laughing hysterically. I acknowledge that, because I have the feeling that laughter is contagious. So that sort of brings up the audience. That somehow it works, and as you say, you're in the moment, and you relate to the people that are out there. I'm a great believer. You may remember I produce a show once a month. It's a showcase, and as producer, I learned in the States that comedy is a business. And I now appreciate the fact that without the audience, there is no show. As the producer, my job is to fill that room.
Yep. Yeah, butts in the seats.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so that what you were talking about, the phenomenon, I call it the lead laugher. In sociology, it's a keynote laugher, just like a keynote speaker. A keynote laugher is there's a leader to a lead laugher at a table, usually to a section, and can be for an entire audience. I just call them lead laugher, try to get away from, psychobabble kind of talk. The lead laugher. See, what it is that most people don't want to be that lead laugher. They don't want to stick out. Okay. But there are those that like to stick out. And what I find is that the rest of the audience will come up to just below that lead laugher. Does everybody follow? So the more you can get that lead laugher to laugh loud and loud and loud, the audience will come up with them because they don't want to stick out. But it's giving them permission to laugh louder and longer because this other person is louder and longer than they are and getting the attention for it. So if you want to increase the volume and the length of laughter and stuff, is feed into that, talk to that person. Now, one of my rules, never make fun of somebody's laugh, because that lead laugher then will stop laughing. Okay, and you want that person. Now, there are times also when they can take over the show. They're like donkey laughs, like that, right? You get those people. And what I used to do is just let it say, "Oh, that's great, keep going," and and I do it, and I'd let them laugh, and I'd let them laugh. Pretty soon, they just get tired of doing it. And they like run out of steam because it's I'm giving the attention instead of pulling the attention. You're giving them the attention, and that kind of messes up their intent. I'll let you do your donkey laugh or your bray as long as you want to. Go ahead, keep going. No, it's not enough. Keep going. And after a while, they're like, "Oh God, this is work." So that lead laugher, I've got a video out on YouTube, the Greg Dean comedy. I got a lot of videos, some 200 videos out there. And that's one of the techniques, which is, feed that lead laugher is really helpful. The other thing you were saying was that stand-up comedy is a business. It's really, comedy clubs don't sell comedy. They sell drinks, maybe food. That's what you have to understand, that's what they're doing. Strip clubs are not selling strippers. They're selling alcohol, using strippers to do that. Same thing with music clubs. They make their business off of alcohol and or food. Okay, they're all the same business. Okay, they're just using different kinds of entertainment to bring people in so that they can sell them overpriced booze and make a lot of money and make a living, and keep their club going. So it is a business. Understand? I used to do a thing when I used to get the audience to do a toast with me so they drink more. I did that on purpose. The club owner's going, "Oh, he's getting people to drink more." "Do you want me back?" "Yeah." "Yeah. Oh, let's toast to this." Yeah. So it's think about it. That's the business. The business is really alcohol. Comedy is the means of entertaining the audience and stuff. People want, while they're drinking, do they want to laugh? Do they want to see girls? Do they want to listen to music? What do they want to do? So, and finally, movie theaters learned that. You have alcohol in movie theaters, and so. Yeah, it is a business. There's a business. And when you understand that, it can change how you go about approaching what you do for the show itself. And that's what I did. I just tailored a little bit to that. And boy, they sure liked me. And I didn't spend a lot of time in a lot of clubs and stuff and road work and all. I did a lot of other different kinds of comedy, but there's that. So what time we got here, Steve? We're at our time, aren't we?
Yep.
We are. So anybody else got a last thing you need to say before we sign off, or any questions?
There's one question in the chat if you want to.
Yes.
In there for a while. It's from Martin or Morton, sorry. Please say something about being in character. Your stand-up person is a character. I've found it is, but in what degree is it helpful? For instance, I use my native dialect a little.
So, it's the difference. How close is the character you, Morton?
Yeah, it's I would say it's very close to me.
So you see, the way most people see, there's no way. First of all, there's no right way to do this. Okay, if the audience is laughing, you're doing the right thing. It comes down to that. Okay, audience laughing and having a good time, and it's your audience, and you're doing the right thing. There's always thing about should you be dirty, should blue material, whatever. That's not my business as a comedy instructor. Mine is to give people skills. So you're doing a character that's very close to yourself. How truthful are you with this character about how your beliefs and your values? Are you very close to it?
Actually not.
Okay, so mhm.
Actually, I'm what the audience is laughing about is actually how the things I say, that they are a little, the person that I play or
Yes,
that I interpret is
it's
stupid and yeah, very basic. You can say that.
the character misses obvious.
Sorry for my English.
That's okay. No, I get it. So this is a classic thing of like this is Steve Martin. Steve Martin's a philosopher. He's an artist. He's a writer. He's an incredibly intelligent man. He plays a character, the jerk, the character in stand-up, who thought he was great at everything and was pretty much incompetent at everything. And that's what we were laughing at, was how confident he was while he did, balloons, and then it didn't turn out to be anything, but then he'd say, it's a dog, right? So he's missing the information. So you have to be smarter than your character.
Yeah.
Okay. So now start to develop what you do is and be that character. I would actually make a list of his values, his beliefs, his identity. In other words, identity is like, for me, one of my identities, I'm a comedian, I'm funny, I'm a teacher. Okay. I'm a husband. These are all like identity things. When we say I am, okay, that's pretty much that's identity. Who is this person? I am an expert. On the other hand, he's an idiot. So then you kind of know, because remember, jokes have two parts. So an expert should know this, but he knows this. Do you follow?
Yeah.
So and so for you to identify the things where he thinks he's the best and he knows and he's right, and he's not, because he's missing information, the more you'll be able to be clear about what to write for him. Okay. And to be that character, give him idiosyncrasies, characteristics.
Yeah.
Where like Steve Martin would do, right? Yeah. That's an idiosyncrasy. He would do something like that, So what is the character? I used to do a character named Bob Hormone.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of those finger pointing, shoot a gun kind of guys at you, but he always did it wrong. He'd go, bang. Right. I mean, he's just the guy. He'd try to pick up a woman and he'd say, why don't you and me? Everything he was so self-conscious. That's an idiosyncrasy. Look it up. So what does he do? And the comedy is there. And then the other thing I would say is use a lot of idioms and get them wrong. I don't know what they are in Denmark, in Danish. But those would be the ones that I would say, anything that everybody else knows, he thinks he knows and he gets it wrong. I pretty much got the character.
Yeah, it's the
Now,
character.
Take
Yeah.
take it further.
Yeah.
Take it further. And to me, with characters like that, the more arrogant they are, the
Mhm.
funnier they are.
Okay.
See, because it's like Dumb and Dumber or Laurel and Hardy. Hardy thought he was really smart.
Mhm.
He was not. It was Dumb and Dumber. It's the same thing. That's what they were. Steve Martin's character is incredibly, incredibly arrogant and incredibly incompetent. So don't be afraid to let this person brag and put themselves out there, because that's part of where the joke is. The setup is that he thinks he knows, and he's
Yeah.
make him absolutely certain.
Yeah.
And I don't know, even connect this to the audience that I would suggest that you actually do some crowd work with him, and correct people with his nonsense, and try to help people and save people. Last story, because we do get to get going. I had a lady who was a conspiracy theory convinced of all this QAnon. I mean, cell phones were sending, she had names for them too, bouncing around inside of you and killing us. And, contrails were coming down and dropping things in. I mean, she mentioned everything, that there were Jews with laser beams. And I mean, all of them. She bought all of them. And of course, the class began at first going, wait, that's out. So again, one was a timeout. No. This is her point of view. Nobody's asking you to agree with her point of view. Okay. What we're doing is, let's help her find her point of view and find her way of communicating that to people with jokes. And what I finally did with her was to instruct her with the jokes that we had written for her, was to go in front of the audience and try to save everybody from themselves, because they were all ignorant.
Yeah.
And she was smarter because she knew this inside information that you guys have no idea what's going on. Do you follow?
Yeah.
And so she just walked out, and she got that entire audience to promise to write their congressman and tell them to stop putting out, to stop 5G because it was killing us and giving us cancer, and stop contrails. And I mean, she got the whole audience. By the end, they were laughing, and they're going, "You guys promise? You promise?" And they're like, "We all promise. We're going to call we're going to write our congressman."
Mhm.
Oh man, the audience was laughing so hard, and she came off glowing. Okay, so she was doing what she thought was honest and real. Okay, now it'd be nicer if we could have a character where she'd realize that character is this, and then she could write for that character. No, but that's just who she was. That was the best I could do, was to let her be who she was. And she did several shows, and she always killed. The audience loved her, but they couldn't figure out if it was real or not. And then they never realized that it was. You think it's, this person's putting this on. This is too extreme. Nobody thinks that. No, that's who she was. That's who she really was. And she was fully committed to it. And you could tell that. And, it's a kind of an odd lady that dressed kind of odd and had her hair a little odd. So put that character out there. Have some fun with Stephen Colbert, another one where, he's got that conservative character, right? And he's making fun of conservative characters.
Yeah,
So who are you making fun of?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. That's like this Stephen Colbert, I think.
Good. Then put that out there, but know who this character is. And Stephen Colbert could have given you a biography of his character.
Yeah.
And so could Steve Martin. And so could anybody else that had a character. They knew that character. They knew their values. They knew their beliefs. They knew their identity.
Yeah.
Okay. And they were committed to those things. And that's part of what makes it funny, because that absolute commitment and to the being a doofus, not being that smart and missing the reality, as it were, is what makes each one of those jokes funny. And you've got to craft them just like you do any other joke. Got to craft it, make sure there's a connector. Not just that they're missing it. There's still got to be a connector for every joke that they do. Anyway, so Stever, everybody, I'm going to go over quickly. You know what? I've done it too many times, so I'm not going to go over other things that we offer. We, go on our website, stand-upcomedy.com, and you'll see we have some, we have on Teachable, we have 5 different classes there, and we've got books and other classes and weekend seminars and standalone things. Come and take those. This is for free. This is fun to talk. There's other things where we instruct. Some of them are free and some of them are for pay, but also like and comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That also helps me out as well. I'm going to take off. So until next time, remember, laughter is contagious. Pass it on. Thanks.
Thanks. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.